made you choose that?
Well, I was looking online at like different programs and stuff, and I realized that in psychology they teach you about like how people develop from being children to adulthood, to adults, and then they teach you how society affects that and how certain things such as like thing or racism or like judging someone based on their sex, it affects them. So that was interesting.
That's really good. I found interest in that myself. I have a foundation that I'm building from scratch, and it's focused on training adults how to mentor children of incarcerated parents. And looking at that, what you're saying right now, how we focus on the fact of what the child development is and what children go through. But I didn't go to college actually to acquire that information. Actually, just my personal experience made me gather the desire to reach out in that area. See, I was born and raised in Compton, California. And I grew up without a father. You know, by the time I was 5 years old, my father was gone. He was gone. And I didn't have an example to follow as far as a male example. When they say, how can a man be a man unless he see a man? That's what I've heard. And so the examples that I had on my block was negative examples, mostly. But it was people that was growing up with the same situations, circumstances, and conditions that I was growing up in. We didn't see paramedics driving home and saying, hey, I'm home from work with the uniform. We didn't see masseuse for the NBA. Those exciting ideas. So really, really take the time today, if you haven't already, to appreciate the seeds that your mother put in you, that your parents put in you, to drop those seeds. My mother had to go to work all the time. She worked, she had a beauty salon and she did hair, and she was the only provider for me and my two sisters. Being the fact that I only had two sisters and no brothers, I had to fight with the idea that I need to be strong, that I need to find out what it is to be a man. I mean, how am I supposed to figure this out without an example to follow? Again, so the examples that I seen on the streets, I drew manhood from being aggressive. You know, I drew manhood from being ready to fight. It took a long time for me to recognize that my strongest weapon is right here. It took a long time for me to figure that out. Long time. From the examples that I was following, I was encouraged to do a lot of criminality. I was encouraged to do drugs. I was encouraged to be one of the toughest guys on the block. You know, that was my goal. That's what I set out to do. They called me Local Mike with Santana Block Compton Crip. And it took a long time for me to recognize that I had another avenue to go down that was available to me. Even though my mother would say, get ready for Sunday school, you're going. And I would go to church, I would go to Sunday school, and I would be there. But it was something different about the men I seen inside the church from the men that I seen on the streets. It seemed like the men that was at church, they had titles. Deacon, pastor, usher board member, choir leader. And those titles didn't show me exactly what a man was, but they was functioning under the authority of the structure of the church, their positions. So I still was lost. I would feel certain things, I would think certain things, and didn't have nobody to ask questions to. A lot of them I wouldn't ask questions to because who's in the church? A lot of times I didn't ask questions because I didn't want nobody to know that I didn't know. I didn't know how to deal with that. Appreciate your parents. So, as I continued doing the things that I was doing, and I see the guys that when they go to school, other people cross the street, I seen the power. I didn't recognize again that power came from here. The things that you guys are sharing with me, I'm like, explain that to me. Explain that to me. That's powerful. That's powerful. This is the things that you get in your careers, and your ideas, and your passions, and your dreams, and just imagination. Very seldom do you see a lot of youth with imagination today. Somebody tell me what the youth, statistically, what the majority of the youth today really want.
Money.
Huh?
Money.
Okay. What else? You just gonna say money too? To be known. To be known. Popularity.
Affection.
affection,
To be happy.
to be happy. Okay. And where do they find their happiness at?
And all the stuff named before.
Exactly. See, one thing you'll find is like the toughest guy you see is usually the most insecure. Because the higher my guards are up, the deeper my insecurities are. If you remember, who's seen the Bruce Lee movie? When Bruce Lee's life? You see, you know what I'm talking about? You know what one of my favorite scenes was? My favorite scene was when he came in the gym. Anybody remember that scene? And the guy, all the tough guys, all the wrestlers was all around there, and they was all just like, who is this guy walking through the gym? Hey, don't get on this equipment. Anybody remember that part? Don't get on this equipment. Don't get. What did Bruce Lee do? Huh? He got on it anyway. But what was his aura? What was his energy like? He had an essence of peace that was unimaginable. But the guys was huge, wasn't they? But he had no worries. He smiled at them, didn't think twice about what they had to say. Why do you think that was? That's the key. He was secure with himself. He was secure with his abilities, and he wouldn't let his emotions, because believe me, he's human. So believe me, he probably felt something, being disrespected, being treated, racially wrong. But at the same time, he was secure in who he was. So he didn't let that move him. He didn't let his emotions guide his feet. How many of us let our emotions guide our feet sometimes? And how do your emotions guide your feet?
I don't know. I know what he's done.
How do your emotions guide your feet? Huh? I'm going to tell you how yours do. We just talked about it. Jacket. Your emotions want you just to throw your jacket away. Instead of putting it in your book bag, because your book bag, you don't like it big. But what did you do to make that change? But what did you do to make that choice? You said, I thought about it. Through thinking, your circumstances and your situations will change. You can create your own environment. You can create your own circumstances, your own situations through the process of thought. That's how you don't let your emotions guide your feet. As I grew up, I was unaware of that. Didn't know nothing about that concept. Didn't hear nothing like that. I didn't have mentor programs. My mentor program was, come on, homie, we can do this. My mentor program led to me to walking the way I walk today. Anybody notice my walk is a little strange? Anybody notice that?
Yeah.
I'm getting good at it. You noticed to get in the front row.
I got a
What happened?
You got shot.
Exactly. My left foot is paralyzed because I got shot. I got shot and I was left in the alley. It was bad. Emotions. My emotions told me that I wanted you to feel put me on a pedestal, make me feel like I was strong, like I was with authority, like based upon what I was willing to do. Names are power. They say even in the Bible it talks every name that God gave it had a purpose, had a meaning, had a definition. And we just now in our day and age we just name names because it sounds good. The names used to have meanings. They used to call me Loco Mike because I was willing to do whatever. Why was I willing to do whatever? Because I was just born crazy? No. My mama used to whoop my tail. I knew how to tuck my rag in my pocket when I got to that front door. I wasn't crazy, but I wanted to perform like I was crazy because I was looking for that acceptance. I was looking for somebody to reach out and let me know that I had value. How do you know you have value? How do you know you have value today?
Me?
Yes.
I would say I have value by not only my parents, but by God by the rest of my family, and my
Okay.
friends.
Who else know that they have value and why? I can't hear
Can
you.
you explain that a little more? Like,
Okay. To notice you have value. A lot of people's self-esteem is really low because there's nothing been invested in them per se to let them know that you can achieve greatness. You can do great things. You are valuable. And a lot of times, parents, it's not because the parents don't feel that way about their children, but they don't want to hear your stomach growl. There's a lot of single parents out there that don't want to hear your stomach growl. I don't want to have you out there sleeping in the car. I don't want you to, all these type of things. They want to pay the bills. And that's their main focus, and make sure you stay breathing. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. And by the time they did all that, they're tired. Now it's the time for you to go to bed. You feel me? So these are the things that a lot of children, a lot of youth are missing because of that. And sometimes the parents get so tired that they let them just go out there and say, he's going to be okay, she's going to be okay. But how many of us, and I know all of us, have questions that are still unanswered in our mind, and we're looking for we're looking for somebody that can help us answer them, but we're not even willing to ask them yet. Some of us haven't found a person to ask certain questions to yet. About what we may be thinking, what's on our mind, what we like or what we don't like. We think we're not approved to be able to express that. We deal with that all the time. We deal with it all the time. But to know that you have value, sometimes you got to look at the process. This is the last day of school, or
So we have like 2 more weeks.
2 more weeks?